One thing that you said you were going to tell us at the start was the worst thing that you've seen in your time in prison.
Yeah.
What was that?
This is the most horrific, disgusting thing. I mean, I felt ill just reading my notes on the way here.
Oh, wow. Brought his notes as well.
It's quite a long story.
Oh, no, we've got all day, mate.
Right, so in the last podcast, we discussed my friend, my 6.5 foot transgender friend, Xena.
Xena, yeah.
Yeah.
What a name as well, though.
Warrior
Princess.
No, really, it is. It's a quality name because it puts a mental image straight there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Xena was a man, but living out as a woman.
Okay, so Xena believes she is a woman trapped in a man's body.
Right.
And I mentioned last time that she was horrifically gang raped. They stuffed a broomstick in her backside and raped her while she was unconscious. And she started plucking people's eyeballs out to stop it. Yeah.
Fuck me, it's the way you described that last time. I remember being like, wow. That is not something I'd like to have happen to me. Like,
you might be thinking that again in a minute.
All right,
I'll tell you what Xena got up to. Right. So I'm just going to describe this as Xena telling me through a letter that she wrote what she did in prison.
Oh, this is her letter.
This is her words. Yeah.
And you had a correspondence, obviously.
Yeah. She writes to me about once or twice a year, something like that.
And for some reason tells this story.
Because it's a very important story that she wanted the world to hear.
Yeah.
All right. I removed all of my clothes and straddling the toilet, I grabbed my scrotum with my left hand, and with my right hand I cut the right side of my scrotum about 1.5 inches long. The pain was minimal. Blood began to run down the inside of my thigh. I glanced into the toilet and saw a steady drip, drip, drip from the wound. I placed the razor blade onto my table and reached into my scrotum with my thumb and forefinger. I grabbed my right testicle and pulled it to the surface. The next step was a little more difficult, cutting the inner layer of tissue surrounding the testicle itself. Remembering what I had read in the Mosby Medical Dictionary, I separated my testes with my left hand using my thumb and forefinger. I placed the razor at the top of the cut and buried the blade about 1/4 inch into the testicle itself and began to cut down. The testicle came easily out of the skin, and with great amusement I realized that there was no pain. Holding the razor blade between my teeth, I grabbed one of the rubber bands from the bowl and I tied it around the spermatic cord below the spermatic bundle of my right testicle. I cinched it tightly, still no pain. Maybe it was adrenaline that was keeping me from feeling anything, or maybe hype with all the thinking that this would be so painful, which was just not true. I grabbed the razor from between my teeth. Licking my lips, I could taste the blood on the razor. I placed the blade directly above the cord about 1/2 inch from the tied rubber band. In one swift motion, I severed the testicle from my body. Then, holding it like a fisherman would a minnow, I dropped it into the toilet and flushed. I looked to the ceiling, and with the very first real moment, I felt pain. "Oh, fuck!" I screamed. The pain welled up like a hot arrow, stabbing my abdomen, pounding it as if it were tied to a jackhammer. Coffee was no suitable painkiller. It did not work when I was passing kidney stones 5 years ago, which was the worst pain I had ever felt. The pain which shot into my body was way beyond the pain a kidney stone could cause. The room began to sway, my eyes were losing focus. It was so intense, I felt this was all I would be able to do. Of course, I was wrong. I set the razor into the soapy water bowl, then I began to breathe. Inhaled one deep breath, exhaled over and over until I regained my focus. I was not going to be defeated by pain. It was no match for my mind. Looking down between my legs, I said, "One down and one left to be cut."
Fuck off, man. No, did you finish the job?
We're only just getting started. I reached back into my scrotum and found the left testicle residing where it ought to be and brought it forward to the wound in my sac. One small problem: Mosby's Medical Dictionary never mentioned that the testes were wrapped individually from one another, and that there was a divider of thick skin separating the two with a road map of blue and red veins crossing one another throughout this section. I had 2 options. 1, let go and go through the other side. 2, cut through the middle and hope for the best. I opted for 2. Grabbing the razor, I began to chop. This skin, however, was a whole lot tougher and hurt a considerable amount more. I don't know whether it was the cup of coffee or the superstitious feelings which were bombarding my mind at that moment. My hands began to shake violently. I had trouble concentrating. I put the razor back into the water and let go of what I was doing. I stared at the ceiling for a long moment. I did not want to believe the events which were accumulating. It was not going my way. I began to breathe. After a while, my hands felt a little more steady. I reached into my scrotum and began to pull the testicle to the opening where, to my total horror, the rubber band tied to my right spermatic cord came loose. Blood sprayed from inside my scrotum all the way to the back of the bunk, 5 feet. Now things went from serious to deadly. I felt for the very first time a panic rushed from my head into my belly, to my extremities. I shook violently. My mind was preoccupied. I heard the glug, glug, glug of blood in a steady flow from my body, flowed from the wound of my scrotum into the toilet, like water being dumped from a plastic jug into a pool of water. Son of a bitch, I kept saying over and over. I looked down between my legs and thought about just how long it might take for me to bleed out. The blood was a steady stream from my body to the inside of the toilet. I reached back and flushed. I watched the water fill the bowl and realized the water was already so full of blood that I could not see the bottom of the bowl. I grabbed the wound in my scrotum and squeezed it shut. I was worried that I was not going to be able to complete the job. Too much bleeding, way too much bleeding. I stood up and went to the door. I pulled the sheet away from the door and looked out of the window. No one was walking around. The officer in the tower looked as if he were asleep. I moved the sheet back and went and flushed the toilet. As I stood there and watched the bowl fill up with fresh water, I resolved in my mind that I needed to hurry up and cut the other off quickly. After getting it, I pulled it to the surface of the cut and held it there with my left hand. The bleeding was enormous and I began to feel faint. I grabbed the razor and before cutting, I glanced at the clock. 2:30 p.m. I've been doing this for 40 minutes. At least 10 to 15 minutes of heavy bleeding. No wonder I was feeling faint. Cold chills were up and down and throughout my body. Shaking these thoughts out of my head, I began to cut again. Except now my nerves were shot and I was afraid I was going to die. I did not want to die. This was not what I was trying to accomplish. All I wanted was to get rid of the body of that nasty hormone, testosterone. I wanted to feel like a normal person, one step closer to being a woman. I didn't want to feel what it was like and then die because I bled out. The testicle slipped from my grasp. I breathed out heavily. I was exhausted and frustrated. I was afraid that if I were not able to finish the job, I would never get the chance again. So I reached into my scrotum yet again with my right hand. "God damn, where the fuck is it?" I exclaimed as I shoved 3 fingers in as far as they would go into my scrotum. I was searching around and could not find anything which remotely felt like the left testicle, which must have swam away inside my body somewhere. Slipping my little finger into the wound, I shoved my whole hand up inside my body, searching frantically for the elusive left testicle. I could hear a comedic news report inside my head. This just in. Xena, the prison giantess, trying to feel more feminine, opted to remove her testicles, using only a razor blade pulled from a disposable razor. During the attempt, the other one decided it was enough, packed its bags and left for a vacation inside her. The medical term for this phenomenon is retraction. However, it is our belief that given the fate of its neighbour, the other one's desire was to hang around for the rest of her years rather than swim along the septic canal like its departed partner is doing now. I shoved practically my entire hand through the wound in my scrotum looking for the testicle. At one point I could feel my bladder and then something large and squishy, which I believe was part of my intestines. Fed up, I stopped the search and began instead to look for the severed spermatic cord where my testicle used to be. I searched frantically for almost a minute and then resolved in my failure. I looked at the clock, it was 2:40. I removed my hand from inside my body and began to ball up toilet paper and shove it inside my scrotum. I patched the cut up with more toilet paper. I named my creation the Bloody Van Gogh toilet paper stucco nutsack. I stood up on shaking legs and went to the door. I removed the sheet from the door, looked out of the window and yelled for help.
Wow. You like your balls, so that's going to be a really...
I just kept thinking, I fucking love my balls.
Yeah.
Doesn't make you go right to your own balls, doesn't it?
No, it just makes you appreciate them a lot more, do you know what I mean?
So it was an attempt, really, that was a...
How did she survive that?
They got a helicopter.
Fuck me.
but would have bled out.
She would have died. And then she was on suicide watch. And then she waited and then got the other one off.
Well,
What, with a blade?
Again.
Clearly,
They cauterised the wound with a cigarette lighter.
I mean, I've got no idea what it feels like to be a man who feels like a woman trapped inside of that man, you know, like, but,
Yeah.
I mean, how long has she got inside?
30 plus years.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. Oh, actually, she's down to 10 or less now, I think.
Because I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be easier to just wait until he got out? But I suppose that's not really an option in here.
I'm not really going to
A
wait.
few in there have done it successfully, cauterised the wound. One I knew in there had done it,
me.
and the wound had got rotten, and she got busted because the rotten wound, she was hospitalised, and then she got in trouble. But she looked like most like a woman out of anyone I've ever seen in there. Yeah.
Who was Zena?
No, this a friend of Zena,
This other one, yeah.
Donna, and
I'm sorry.
a lot of guys.
It does make me laugh the way there's like fellas walking around in prison called Donna.
Donna and Zena.
Well, it's like, because I'm imagining my first day in prison and I'm like, who's the lad over there wearing the...
Who's lad with long hair.
Here's the thing. If you-
that's Donna.
Donna.
Getting a blowjob from Donna, it wasn't considered gay because Donna's got no nuts. She's trans.
How did they decide where a trans person goes, whether they go in a woman's prison or a man's prison?
in Arizona?
It's quite literally gender.
It's what you're born with.
Right.
So I just got a letter from a prisoner.
Sex and gender. Right.
I had this Mexican gangster mate in prison called Frankie. He was like a Mexican mafia hitman. He'd done 29 years when I met him. He beat he was in for murder for hire. Beat that case because all the witnesses had disappeared. He was a big time chess champion, and he's been rearrested. He's back in. I just got a letter from him because he's bisexual and he's really frisky, and he was hitting on me all the time and stuff, and trying to get me to play strip chess. But he's just found hermaphrodite in there.
Oh, he's
made up.
He's
made up. Yeah.
Loving life. Yeah.
Every option going.
Yeah.
Spoiled for choice, if anything.
Yeah.